Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, the 20th of September. Tomorrow is the start day of the Class 650 Mini Transat, which will be a bit of fun. I don't know whether I'm going to get out there or not. It's a bit overcast now. But anyway, we'll see. And I haven't launched our rib, which would have made life a lot easier, but I offered to let them use it if they need to, but they've got plenty of ribs. There's a lot of volunteers get involved here in Les Sables d'Olonne with all the events, which is amazing. The volunteers on the water. When we did the GGR starts, we get like 30 people all turn up with their ribs for free, which is fantastic. And we give them a T-shirt and a hat and give them some fuel. It works really well. And so the same with the Mini Transat. They've got nearly 90-odd boats, and they all get towed out to the start like a bunch of ducklings, on tow ropes. There's about 2 or 3 behind every rib, and each of the ribs do about 3 trips or something to get them all out on time. So that'll be fun to watch. And if you saw the little gallery I put up from the dock, it's just crazy. Some of the boats are just stunning, quite fun. So they're going to have quite a bit of deal, and it's interesting. They still have complete communication block out when they're sailing across the Atlantic. They have no. They've only got a VHF radio. They get weather reports relayed from race control, over their VHF radio. They have escort yachts that go with them. I think there's about 5 big yachts that escort the fleet this time, just as sort of safety and recovery boats and so on. And so there's usually they have a couple of big cats, but I think there's only 1 cat and the rest of them are big monohulls. So they'll be with the fleet all the way across in case something goes wrong. They have a satellite phone on board for emergency use only. They can't ring family and friends and all that sort of stuff. They don't have Starlink, all that stuff banned, so it's pretty much isolation. And it was interesting because, we've opened it up completely. I didn't think I would for the Transat. The Transat, my impression was that we'd always keep that a little bit isolated and don't allow them to contact family and friends. But the MGR has sort of rolled that over a bit because basically you can see what happens. The MGR is pretty tough. You're on this little boat for a year going around the world, and that's tough enough in its own right. But there's no question that it actually detracts from a certain element of the solo sailing. Should we review this situation for the next edition? I'm of two minds on that. I think we'll still stick with it. And so, but it does lose an element. You look at Ayrton, he's probably the heaviest user. Crikey, he's online all the time as soon as he's got power. And so there's no sense of isolation and voyaging as a solo sailor, like John Guswell and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, when it came to the Transats, it means that we would allow that in the Transat for the MGR year. And so then we're thinking 26, bugger it. We'll let it go. And so 26 Transat, we're allowing full communications. So I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing for the Transat because anyway, I'm not likely to withdraw that, but it's a conversation I'd like people to get involved with, not just the entrants, but the followers as well. So feel free to make a comment about your opinion of Starlink on the boats. So that's fun. And what's all this about? What's the caper here? Well, that's Inni Mini, great boat, just sold to a new owner. It was a classic. He built it in his backyard, had to pull it over the top. Great looking little boat. Everyone had got different opinions on colour schemes. A lot of people look at Tracker and think, geez, I'd never do that for a colour scheme. Some people, I like bright colours, but anyway. And it was borderline there, actually, because, this whole thing, you can see down the cabin side, it's meant to be high vis. And we're going to be very particular on that now. And that's safety orange. It's not high vis, that colour. So apparently the new owner's going to do the Transat. He's going to have to put high vis down the cabin side there, which you can do with vinyl. We don't allow, it's got to be high vis. I'm going to really jump down on that now, which I've been saying for a long time. So, but anyway, great story, great way to build the boat. Built it in a tent in the backyard, did a great job. It's a fantastic boat. So, and we haven't got the sales point up yet on the website because I've been really busy with all the rest of the stuff going on. But we will be putting a boats for sale thing on the website, and it'll become sort of mandatory. So at least there's one spot where everyone can go and they can see what boats are for sale and how much and all that stuff. So that's still coming, but it's part of the plan. All right, over to the tracker now. Got a few people there. And I meant to say, stand by, because this little number here with the reports coming from the entrance is really good. It's already shaping up. We had another couple of reports jump in this morning. So at least I'll be able to give you at least twice a week any reports from any of the entrants. And if the entrants are watching this, and I'll probably send them a message, that's the minimum report required for public exposure. So they've got their scheduled 2 days a week. They've got to send us 40 to 50 words, which I can read to you. They can send more words if they want, and they can do it more often if they want. But we've got to get at least a couple of weeks. So that'll, should keep everyone happy and make it a bit more interesting. Okay, back to the tracker. So you're on the tracker, and I'm now on the tracker. I say that to make sure I'm pressing the right buttons. And they actually all rolled over. I waited until I turned this on to see what's happening. So here's what we've got. The big picture, there's the scenario. Everyone else is still in the in Cocos. Mark, by the way, on Coconut is about 1,000 miles away. He finally left Darwin. I think he was drinking too much beer and too many parties with Jill and all the rest of the crew that were there. Gary was still there, but I think he's left now. He's prepped the boat and got it ready to truck or trailer back later on. So there's Mark. He's about 1,000 miles from Cocos, so probably another week or something, and he'll be in Cocos. Everyone will be gone by then. And I doubt whether he'll catch him now until, it depends how long he stays at Cocos, until maybe even Cape Town. Who knows? Maybe Darwin. So he's hanging back a bit. You can see the big puff of breeze there for the boats that have left. Pila's not quite in it yet. She left last night, and they're having a pretty fast start, so that's kind of cool. Rightio, here we go. There's only 4 boats to report on. 5.7 knots for Pila, 87 miles. She hasn't been out for 24 hours yet, so that's okay. And Kerry dipping south again because it might be a little bit more breeze down there, but later on I think there's less. So 6 knots for Kerry, 139 mile day, getting a quick start. Dan, 135 mile day, that's pretty respectable. Renault sitting out the front. I often wonder, 137 mile day, for instance. I often wonder whether he can actually put more pressure on and drive harder and faster if he really had to, or if he wanted to. Because you've got to remember this scenario. He's in the lead. He's got a 50-mile jump on Daniel, or he did have that yesterday, and he's in front of Kerry and stuff. So his role, he might be driving as hard as he can and fast as he can all the time, but there's also a scenario where he just parks it there and stays about 50 miles in front of Dan. And then if Dan puts the pressure on and gets to 30 miles, then Renault puts a bit more pressure on and jumps back to 50. And so it goes. I actually did that in the BOC when I was racing, and I had a Frenchman in a super lightweight. He was a mini sailor, and he built a 50-footer the same as a mini back in 1990. That was really radical. And every time I put pressure on him, he'd just speed up a bit. And so it was crazy, and he'd just sit in front of me, far enough in front to stay in front. But if I decided to try and do something, he'd just put the pressure on again because the boat had a lot more speed potential. So is Renault driving as fast as he possibly can, or is he just sitting in the front there? Interesting point. So I'm going to keep distances every day now, just as a matter of interest for the lead boats, just so you can see if who's closing and who's not. Right. Yesterday, I think Dan was about 50 miles, and now he's about 48. He might have gained a little bit. I'll put him down because you got to look at it as the course rather than follow the leader. Because Renault's gone a little bit north. He's probably about there. I'll put him down as 48 miles. So I'm writing him down now, so I don't forget. So 48 miles for Dan, and then Kerry. If we guesstimate that on course, it's probably about there. It's still 102, so I'll put Kerry down 102. So he was 100 yesterday, and so that's there. And then Pila is back here, so I can put her on track right at the bow, near enough. 206, so I'll put her down at 206. So we'll call that every day, and you can see relative changes and stuff. on what's happening. So that's it. Not much more to say. You know the anchorage there that's going there. So another quick one because there's only part of the fleet out there. We can look at currents and then look at the weather going forward. Hit that. Pull this down. Okay, Kerry's getting a bit of a lift. Dan was. Yeah, it's all pretty much balanced. Nothing spectacular, but all following in the right direction. And if we had to say anything, these guys are doing 139-mile days or 135-mile days. That current is probably worth about 12 miles a day, 10 or 12 miles a day. So that's maybe part of what they're getting. The wind is showing, 25 to 30, probably. 25 gusting 30 maybe. Sea state will be still big, about 3 to 4. Yeah, it's a solid purple, 3 to 4. So they're having boisterous conditions. Back to the wind. Let's see what it's going to do in the next couple of days. I'm about to sneeze. Oh, no, I'm not. I don't know. Okay, so the next couple of days. See if this is working now. My keyboard is on. So, nope, it's not working. Okay, I'm still tenterhooks with the bloody computer. It crashed big time yesterday. Took 3 times to try and start up. Okay, so we just chop it back here a little bit. It's softening off, which is okay. They'll enjoy that. Is the sea state dropping? So you can see what's happening there. It's dropping off to the 3 days. Yeah, and this is where Kerry's dipping south, but you can see what's going on down here. There's less wind than up the top. Renault's taking the opposite track and he's going north because you can see this coming. He analyses the weather. Renault analyses the weather every 4 or 6 hours. He has a look at the weather and works out where he's going to go. It's interesting. Kerry's going south. Renault's going north. Dan's hanging in there. He'll maybe follow the leader. Maybe they'll watch this. Don't know. So that's all interesting as well. Currents, they won't change. They'll be, it's a bit more patchy. So that's interesting. Sea state, this should drop off a bit. Should be, no, it's still holding, eh? So what's the big picture? I'll always tend to show you the big picture now. We're getting into the Indian Ocean because it's really being directed by what's down south, and we can get big low pressure systems here. You can see, in fact, I've got you can see a little system coming in there as well, but just for the future. Oh, that looks good. That'd be a good time to go down to Durban. But anyway, so a little bit of a disturbance, bits and pieces. This big bit here, you can see it's all being driven by these systems down south. There's some big ones there. Okay, all looking pretty stable, pretty good. We'll come back and I'll read you these daily reports, which are very exciting, before we come into any questions. Okay. So I get back to, that's origami. I don't want that. I want the group reports, which is, I see. Origami's report came in from, not on the mainstream report. Oh, yes, it did. Okay. So we got Tracker, sent one in yesterday, back on Tracker after 4 days ashore. Lots of shopping, shore and a general tidy up. So Tracker's sort of getting organised. BB, this is a good one. Jacob, 8th day in beautiful Cocos Keeling. First couple of days were very wet with 70 millimetres of rain each day. Good, as the boat got a nice wash of the salt. Nearly all the fleet together, and we do some barbecues on the beach. The ferry goes to Home Island only Thursdays and Saturdays. Yesterday was a bit of a struggle as the ferry broke down and panic arose of how to provision for the trip. This is panic in the fleet because there's a few of them commented. They couldn't get to the shops. Luckily we got a water taxi. It cost $200 for the water taxi over and back, $100 each, to get us to the West Island, where we swiped the local shop of the remaining. So they took everything they could get. Fresh deliveries come on Friday evening in the plane from Australia. The problem is that Saturday everything's closed due to the school sports day, so they're not there at the right time. So supplying in Cocos is a challenge, an adventure in itself, but it's so beautiful that the one can forgive any nuisance. So that's cool. And then Kerry Harris came up talking about his big paddle, 5-mile paddle across the lagoon to the other side. Always an adventure, but it was a quick ride home. Near Prison Island, I had to skirt around a big group of hammerhead sharks. They were not very large, but they had me outnumbered. So they're the main reports, but there might have been another one here. That's the origami. Oh, okay. That came from the manager. So I just got his departure shot from Kerry, and the message is I started a bit late because I was hemmed in by a couple of yachts, and it's never easy weighing anchor on a lee shore in 30 knots. I think I made a nice job of it though with the outboard in its permanent stowage. So he does. Kerry absolutely hates motoring. He will not motor on the course. He wants to sail all around the world because you're allowed to under the notice of race motor. But Kerry said, no, not for me. And he doesn't even like motoring on and off the marina and things like that. He'd rather sail. So, and I sent a message on that one thinking it was on the group report one, but it's not. I just said to Kerry, perfect timing, because it came in a few minutes before here. And they said, oh, call me anytime in the next 15 minutes. But obviously Kerry wouldn't have been there for that, so he's not called in. Okay, so we're getting through it all, and we've got a couple of comments here. Val, g'day. Good for mental health. Not sure what is good for mental health, but watching the tracker is excellent for mental health. This is for the this is a comment on the Starlink. Yes, I agree, and that was probably the priority. You know, I thought, because I always look at what I want to do with all of this stuff, everything I ever do, the events, you know, Gold Globe, Ocean Globe, Mini Globe. I thought, shit, I'd love to do that, you know. So, and the One Design 580, it was like, that's what I want to do, you know, and so I'd love it. And so if I was doing the MGR, I would want Starlink. There's no question. I wouldn't use it like Ayrton, sitting there watching movies and downloading all this sort of stuff. But I would absolutely want to use it for the reason of publicity, you know, because publicity, it's not an ego trip. It's just to inspire people. You know, people want to hear your story, and they hear your story. All the entrants now, you know, the followers are loving it, and it's fantastic to watch, and it makes you want to go out and do something. And that's the reason we support adventure. So yeah, I'd want Starlink, and that's why we did it for the MGR. So Alenka, I think allowing contact with the outside world is definitely a good thing while taking part in these races. It is, but I still think in the back of my mind, I think it's a negative for the Transat. The Transat's only, you know, I got across in how many days? I forget now, 28 days. Our guys preceding the MGR got across in like 22 days or something, you know, and you could do it quicker. So it's not a long time, but at least you get to contemplate the meaning of life and absorb the ambiance of being out in the ocean by yourself, solo sailing, which is what you do. So I've distorted that because of our connection to the MGR. I brought it back to the Transat. I don't know whether that's a good thing. We're not going to pull it for 26, and we're not going to pull it for 28 because it's preceding the MGR. But I may ban it after that. I really think it's the Starlink for the Transat is probably not a good thing. But anyway, and you just look at the fact what goes on with the 650 Transat. I mean, they're only out there for 2 weeks or something. They zip across at 20 knots and stuff. But anyway, interesting to get people's comments on that. G'day, I never know how to pronounce that. Ilse. Yeah. Val, communication. Yeah, but communication, satellite phones are a lot easier. You know, I mean, and in fact, Starlink isn't a reliable safety communication device, right? It's not accepted internationally as a safety device. It's convenience. Whereas satellite phones, an Iridium satellite phone is recognised as a safety device because they're sort of basically waterproof and rugged and reliable, and you only need voice for that. But remember, we have two YB3 satellite texting and position reporting devices, as well as all the other stuff. But yeah, communication for safety is it's you can use sat phone. But anyway, all fun. Captain Joey, ahoy, 4:22 a.m. in Fort Lauderdale. You're up early, mate. Sorry. Anyway, so if you ban Starlink, will you allow Iridium Go for weather? Yeah, that's what we had, but that's what we used to allow. You know, the other Transats you could have Iridium Go for weather, but you weren't allowed to use around generation and stuff, all that sort of stuff again. But we allowed Iridium Go, and you had to do mandatory daily text, short texting every day, and you had a scheduled weekly satellite phone call, which we recorded onto the cloud, to jeepers, I forget what it's called because we're not focusing on it much. So yeah, anyway, all interesting stuff. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so that's about it. Only 4 boats out there, so hope you have a good weekend, and we'll be here tomorrow. Yeah, have fun. See you later. Bye bye. Oh, I can see another one there. Everyone's probably gone. Rathlin, for those who want to race but get lonely, perhaps they could do a virtual race while staying safely at home. That's a good one. Starling had 9. Oh, jeepers, now everything's pouring in. Everything's pouring in. Here we go. Full start. I'm back again. I was just about to press the button. Starlink had 9,000 of 16,000 satellites. Yeah, I've got to say that's a bit of a worry, the amount of satellites up there. But anyway, they degrade and fall out of the sky, but there's going to be more. Phew. I used to look at the stars as a kid laying in the country, and you might see 1 or 2 satellites. Now they're everywhere. Lindsay, can you please explain how the handicap works with putting a new mainsail replacement? That's easy. Any new sails on the boat, 48-hour time penalty. Whether it's a spinnaker or a jib or a mainsail. And if they lose a sail over the side, like say you drop a spinnaker and you have to cut it free because you can't get it back, it's also a time penalty. You've got to keep the remnants on board. If you blow out a spinnaker, we don't want it in the ocean. So if you lose it over the side, you pay the price. Can you explain? That's that one. Craig. Okay. All right. This time we're going. See ya.